What is up, my Lorcana goons? My name is Kevin. Welcome to the Lorcana Goons channel. We're gonna talk about some Lorcana stuff today. Now, there's been a bunch of news happening. There's been news about events, news about the restocks and the reprints, and even some new cards. So let's get on into it. I will first be going over the cards that don't seem too great. So first off, we're gonna go ahead and talk about the new Tigger. It is called Tigger, one of a kind. So as you can see, Tigger's a superhero in this one. He's a 3-cost inkable. He's gonna have 3 strength, 3 willpower, and only quest for 1 lore. He's a Dreamborn Tigger, actually, okay. Energetic, his ability says. Whenever you play an action, this character gains +2 strength this turn. Flavor text is bouncing in to save the day. So this is pretty cool. It's a reference to a lot of the Winnie the Pooh lore in general. I think that's pretty cool. We're starting to expand a little bit on the Winnie the Pooh lore, but this card does seem a little bit more casual. It's important to remember that not every card in Chapter 2 and not every card they make is going to be meta impactful. It's going to be like crazy. You know what I mean? We have to have cards that are going to be bad pulls in draft. They're not supposed to be all meta cards, right? It doesn't seem like it's going to see any meta play. I do want to point out, I think it is cool that on Tigger's cape, on the knot, the ruby emblem can be seen. I do want to see more Winnie the Pooh characters, but I would love to see them actually be powerful cards. You know, just because they're Winnie the Pooh doesn't mean we have to make them so weak, you know what I mean? We haven't seen many. I do believe the Honey Wizard is a Floaterborn character, but even Winnie the Pooh Honey Wizard is only a 5/5/5, right? So it would be cool to see some powerful Winnie the Pooh characters. Like I said, just because they're Winnie the Pooh doesn't mean they have to be so casual, right? And I'm coping at that point. I want to be able to play a meta Winnie the Pooh deck, but you know, we'll see if we get there. We'll see if they keep them casual, but we won't spend too much time on this card. I don't think it's going to be anything too crazy. It's not anything that stands out to me. Gaining +2 strength on your turn seems like okay, but as you can see, there is this running theme with combining your actions with some of these characters. So Minnie Mouse is a Ruby character, and that was just announced, and you get a bonus effect when you use actions on your turn, and this is kind of staying in that theme with Ruby cards gaining a little bonus effect if you're using actions. So is this card going to be relevant? I don't think so. I don't think needing that 2 strength on turn 4 or turn 3 with that character is going to be that important, but it does seem like the Ruby color is aiming for something specific, right? Next card we got though is going to be a Donald Duck. This is a steel card. It's a 5-ink inkable, has 6 strength, 5 willpower, and quest for 1. It is a deep sea diver, Dreamborn hero. I do want to point out that the Minnie Mouse is a wide-eyed diver, so maybe there's going to be a diver archetype or diver synergy. And then we also have the flavor text here. It says, "You go ahead, Minnie. I'm going to see if there's any lore over here." I wish I could do a Donald Duck impression there. That would have been cool. I do like that they added that flavor text. It gives a little bit more of an oomph to the card, knowing that Minnie and Donald are on a legit quest looking for lore is actually kind of funny when that's what you call it when you're gaining lore in the game. You're questing. I also want to point out a statement that the official Lorcana account tweeted when they revealed this card. So they revealed these cards with Minnie together in a pair, and then they put a statement that said, "What started as a carefree diving adventure in Lorcana soon turned into much more. Their Lumineer companion had asked them to stick together, but when Donald Duck turned his head for a moment, Minnie Mouse disappeared." So that little extra dash of lore is really cool. I'm definitely waiting for a Lorcana series, maybe a Lorcana like manga style comic book, maybe a Lorcana animated series. Some actual literature that we can read on the lore would be really cool, because I want to know what's going on. I want to know why Minnie and Donald are out there swimming in the ocean looking for lore. Who is the Lumineer, a companion that asked them to stick together? But let's go ahead and talk about if this card is going to see any meta play. I don't think so. We already have a Ruby style card like this called Captain. It's also a 5-ink 6/5, and then we have a steel card that's very similar to this, which is Cerberus, which is a 5-ink 5/6. The stats are just swapped around, and then we do see people play Kronk right now in the current meta, which is a 6/6/6, but I do think that maybe you might play Donald Duck instead of Kronk because it is 1 ink less, and you were playing Kronk because it does out stuff like Elsa, Moana with that 6 strength. So you could warrant playing Donald Duck over Kronk in your deck currently right now for Amber Steel, for example, if you're playing an Amber Steel mid-range. But are you going to really do that in Chapter 2? 2. Maybe not. We'll see how much the meta adapts, but it's just a vanilla. It's a card that seems like it could have been in Chapter 1, but they're throwing it in Chapter 2. Once again, I don't think Chapter 2 is going to have a crazy power creep. I think they're kind of expanding on Chapter 1. It seems like they're just adding cards that they could have added in Chapter 1, but they didn't because they want to keep adding them in Chapter 2, right? So again, not every card is going to be meta impactful. So I am going in order from like least impactful to most impactful. So now we have a 2-drop mini. It's a 2-ink inkable Minnie Mouse zipping around. It's a Ruby card. It has 3 strength and 2 willpower. The flavor text says 0 to fun in under 3 seconds. Storyborn hero, quest for 1 lore. It's a decent card. I think it's a card that you can finally play over Gaston as a 2-drop in Ruby. Gaston is really good because it outs Cusco though, so maybe you don't play it over Gaston, but being able to have a 2/3/2 is pretty cool. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe this is the first character with these stats, and it's pretty strong. Usually we have a lot of characters with the swapped stats like Donald Duck or Genie, but having that 3 strength on turn 2 can be pretty powerful. It's going to be able to out some problematic cards, and this also outs a lot of 3-drops. So if you're playing this on turn 2 and your opponent's playing the Jasmine or Kristoff or Mickey on turn 3, you can trade this easily, right? And you're getting more value from your 2-ink character than they would get on their 3-ink character. This also outs stuff like Hans, which is a 4-ink 3/3, with 3 lore, but it just clears it because it has 3 strength. The new Prince and Sapphire only has 3 willpower as well, so this trades into that. So it is a Ruby card that can be used in your deck. I don't know how meta impactful it's going to be, but you'll probably see it on curve in a lot of Ruby decks because the stats are pretty important. So that's kind of cool. I'm glad we got a card with these stats. Daisy Duck. This card was announced yesterday. This is a Emerald support card. It's a 4-ink inkable. It has 2 strength, 3 willpower. It's a secret agent is what it's called, and she is a Dreamborn ally. The ability reads Thwart. Whenever this character quests, each opponent chooses and discards a card. Wow, discard synergy. So we're getting into this whole like discard archetype with Emerald, which seems like it's getting a lot of support. It might be good, it might not. It could just be gimmicky, we'll see. But right off the bat, in my opinion, it seems like if they're giving this so much support that yeah, it probably is going to be a little better than what we're thinking. There's probably going to be a couple more cards that help this theme in the deck, but I don't necessarily think this is probably going to be the best way to play Emerald. I think the current Emerald strategy of just slapping on Cusco's and ink 5 and 6 characters back to back is a very strong strategy. I don't know if you're going to need to change that up to a discard strategy in Chapter 2, but we'll see. I have seen a lot of people get a little bit worried about introducing the concept of discarding cards as a strategy in Chapter 2 because it can be a little off-putting. I know how salty I feel when my opponent resolves You Have Forgotten Me on me. It just makes me not want to play that game. And I've won plenty of games when, they've used You Have Forgotten Me for my last 2 cards in my hand, but that feeling is just not fun. It does take away the fun in playing Lorcana, unfortunately, and it does make you salty. And the fact that there's a bunch of cards that synergize with this, like You Have Forgotten Me, the new Prince John, the new Hypnotize card, we're gonna be seeing the discard deck come to life. How good will it be? How competitive will it be? I'm not sure, but I can guarantee you if you run into this deck and you start losing your hand, you're not gonna have fun. Like, it just doesn't matter what deck you're playing, you need a hand to play the game. But nonetheless, very interesting card. I don't know if I would play it over, let's say, Tinkerbell Most Helpful right now in my current Emerald deck. But like I said, because they are expanding on this whole discard archetype synergy, this is probably going to be a card that you'll see play. But overall, I don't think it's necessarily anything better than the Evasive Tinkerbell we have. It just seems more like a card you're going to need if you're playing that discard deck, right? I do like the artwork. It is pretty cute. Shout out Ravensburger. Shout out the artist, Lisette Carrera for making a Daisy card and for bringing Daisy into the Lorcana universe. That's always pretty cool to see. So next, now we're gonna start getting into some cool cards, some cards that might actually see some meta play. We have Goofy, Night for a Day. So as you can tell, this is a big boy. Okay, so a 9-ink character with 10 strength, 10 willpower. Goofy Knight for a Day is a Dreamborn hero knight. He quests for 4, and he has a flavor text that reads, "It's a banner day for Sir Goofy, who is steeled to prove his mettle against anyone courting trouble." Joust in case. Wow. Oh my goodness. I thought I was tripping when I was reading that, but I understand what he's doing. He's making puns because he's a knight. Oh, holy heck, that was hard to read. This is the only character that has 10 strength, 10 willpower. It's the only character in Lorcana so far. I don't care what you guys say. Goofy is technically now the strongest character in Lorcana. No way around it. There is no other card stronger than Goofy technically. Right now it's the strongest. It has the most strength and the most willpower. Is this gonna see play? You know what? When cards like this get released, it's always interesting to notice how people's first reaction is, I'm gonna Dragonfire this. I'm gonna use Let It Go on this. I'm gonna use my Hades on this. I'm gonna use my Maleficent Dragon on this. And that's the point of it being a 9-10-10, is that it baits out your removal, buddy. But, if you're using a 5-cost card to eliminate a 9-ink character, you're probably feeling pretty good about yourself. But in a deck like Amber Steel, where they're setting up 3 to 4 lanterns on you, this 9-cost character easily becomes a 5 to 6-cost character, even a 7-cost character. And if you don't have Dragonfire, if you're not playing Dragonfire, if you're playing a deck that has no removal, you tell me how you're gonna out this, buddy. You tell me how you're gonna out a 10-10 on curve. What are you gonna do? You're gonna run all your aggro characters into it? We've seen how difficult it can be to eliminate threats like Surfer Stitch, Ursula, cards with really high willpower in decks where your removal is usually based off of either a combo piece like Smash Grab Your Swords, or it's going to be based off of you literally paying 9 ink to summon a Maleficent Dragon, or you're going to be paying 7 ink to use Be Prepared. If you have the 5 ink for a Dragonfire, then yeah, it's great, but you have to be playing that deck. And if you have 5 ink for a Let It Go, that's also good, but you have to be playing that deck. You see where I'm going with this? If this was out today, I would 100% run this in my Amber Steel deck, at least 1 to 2 maybe, because in the Amber Steel mirror match, I feel like this would give you such an edge. Maybe it might be a little bit win more, because yeah, you have the lantern set up and you have enough ink to be able to pay, a character with such high value. Most of the time in Amber Steel, when you're using Whole New World and you're kind of getting into that grind game, you're setting up your lanterns, you're setting up your 7-8 ink, and that's kind of where you stop. You can drop this pretty comfortably. And if you notice, your opponent has used their Dragonfires on your Surfer Stitch, they've used their Let It Go, their Hades on your Tinkerbells, on your Rapunzel, on your possible Rapunzel targets, on your Carefree Surfer Stitches. When you play this in a simplified game state, it's gonna hit heavy. It's gonna hit hard. If you guys have been grinding it out and you drop a 10-10 on a deck that has already run out of all 4 Let It Goes, they have to draw the out. And if they don't draw the out in a couple turns, they're gonna either waste all their characters running into the Goofy, or you're gonna quest for 4. I don't think the card's gonna see a lot of meta play, let's be honest. It's too greedy. And there's only like one deck that can play it, which is Amber Steel with lanterns, and I really feel like it has to be the Amber Steel deck with the lanterns. It can't be the mid-range version. You have to play lanterns for this card to be good. But like I said, I would play it right now because in the Amber Steel mirror match, I feel like this card would be kind of crazy, right? Like, how do you out this? But overall, I imagine there's gonna be a lot more removal in Chapter 2. We've already got confirmation that we're getting Last Stand, which is an Amber card that gives Amber removal. So in Chapter 2, in the mirror match, if people are playing that card, which they most likely will, it's going to make this card not as good. So this would have been a really good Chapter 1 card, but in Chapter 2, probably not the best. But I love it because it's Goofy being one of my favorite Disney characters, and now we can officially say that Goofy is the strongest Lorcana card out right now. So enough with the copium on those cards. We're here with the real bread and butter, the biscuits, as I like to say. We have Bibidi Bobby Boo. They should have called this Bibidi Bobby Goo. This card is Bibidi Bobby Busted. It's Bibidi Bobby Broken. I will Bibidi Bobby stop now. But seriously, I like this card a lot. Just reading it, you can already start thinking of wacky combos, but let's go ahead and read it together. It's going to be a 3-ink uninkable. It's a song, obviously, and it's going to be an emerald card. You can sing it for 3 if you have a 3-cost character, and the text says, return chosen character of yours to your hand to play another character with the same cost or less for free. So there's already been a couple confirmed rulings with this card. Lorcana has already explained that if you bounce a character to your hand, you can play that same character on the board with this card. Even though it says play another character, you can still play that same character. I do want to give a shout out to Saucy in our Discord for being so active with all this card news and information. He was the one that was able to provide the tweet where Lorcana explained regarding the questions on another card. If a card goes to a zone other players wouldn't normally have knowledge of, either the hand, the deck, or the inkwell, the card is not treated as the same card. it is treated as if it were another card. So when a card leaves play to an area where the player wouldn't have any information of, it goes back to my hand, I shuffle my hand, it is another card now. It's not the same card. So technically, you don't even have to have an appropriate target in your hand to play this card, because when the card's resolving, you're gonna have a target no matter what. So this means that it opens up plays to replay the chosen card that you had on the field. When you have emerald cards that are questing, sometimes they're prone to being attacked and you don't want them to get banished immediately, like Cusco or Mad Hatter, right? So what I can do with this card now is I can quest Cusco, gain my 3 lore, I can play Bibidi Bobby Boo, I can bounce the Cusco to my hand, play the same Cusco, and my Cusco is no longer quested. He's readied, and it's almost as if I used a pseudo Shield of Virtue in my Emerald deck, right? And we've already seen some people play certain decks where they're running Ruby and Emerald for that line of play where you have Shield of Virtue plus Cusco combo. Now you can keep that combo in your Emerald deck, and you can actually ready your Cusco back by using Bibidi Bobby Boo. Another amazing play that I've been seeing go around is that you can combine Bibidi Bobby Boo with Stitch and the new Mickey Mouse card. So basically, turn 1 you summon Stitch New Dog, turn 2 you play Lantern, turn 3 you use Lantern and you play the Surfer Stitch to shift on top of your dog. You sing Bibidi Bobby Boo using your Surfer Stitch. Then, because you bounced back a 6 ink character, you can now play a 6 ink character from your hand. And if you play the new Mickey Mouse card, he's 6 ink, right? Turn 4, you can quest your Mickey Mouse. You can lower the cost of a character in your hand by 3. You can play your Stitch again. And you can even use the Lantern to make Surfer Stitch a 2 ink character. So you play your 2 ink Stitch for 2 ink. And let me remind you, when you bounce back Surfer Stitch to your hand with Bibidi Bobby Boo, you keep the new dog Stitch in your hand as well. So now you can play that same new dog Stitch on that turn, so you get to draw a card guaranteed with that play on turn 5, right? Yeah, it's a big ramp from turn 1 to turn 5, but that's a crazy combo because turn 5 you're drawing cards with Surfer Stitch already. We know how crazy Lemon Lime aggro can be, and I think this opens up a lot of lines of play for a deck like Lemon Lime. It doesn't even have to be an aggressive deck anymore, but you know, playing 6 ink characters on turn 3 and turn 5 seems pretty broken in my opinion, and using the shift ability to abuse Bibidi Bobbidi to be able to bounce cards in your hand and play higher cost characters is wild. And I actually like that this card came out in chapter 2 because it's going to open up a lot of lines for combos. There's going to be a lot of combos that people think of that we're going to see online trending that people are being prepared for, and then there's going to be combos that people didn't expect either. You're going to be playing against colors that you're not really expecting, probably because Bibidi Bobbidi opens up a lot of lines of play and a lot of unique capabilities to pair cards with it. But I really want to know if you guys have thought of any wacky combos with this card. Let me know if you guys think of anything about this card. Personally, I think this card is nuts. I think this card has a lot of synergy with Merlin as well, which is cool because you can use it to bounce back your Merlin Rabbit, for example, to draw a card. Then you play the Merlin Rabbit again and you draw another card. So it does have a lot of utility and more decks than just the ones I'm talking about. You're going to be able to splash it in a lot of stuff. All right, next we got 4 Dozen Eggs. This is another song. It's a 4 ink inkable, and it reads, your characters gain resist +2 until the start of your next turn. So resist being damage dealt to them is reduced by 2. So it's an okay card. I don't think it's anything good. In Sapphire, it might not be needed. It's looking like Steel and Sapphire are for sure the decks that are getting resist as a key term. We'll see if it's every color, but it looks like those are going to be the primary colors that are getting resist as a key term. I haven't seen any Sapphire characters that have resist, but we've seen that the new Cogsworth gives your characters resist, right? And now, is this card going to see meta play? It all depends on if resist is going to be relevant or if it's that good. Overall, it's a song, so you can sing it for 4. It's an inkable card, so that's always justifiable to play it, but it doesn't seem like anything too wild in my opinion. This seems like a win more card. You need characters on your field. You need enough characters on an established field for this to be good in my opinion. I don't really see a turn where giving your characters +2 resist is going to sway you like that much tempo unless you have a lot of characters already. And if you have a lot of characters already on the board, you're kind of already winning the game, right? Because they're not outing your characters. So the next card we have though is an Amethyst 2 ink uninkable. We finally got Pinocchio revealed, everybody. Pinocchio, the talkative puppet. He is a 1 strength, 1 willpower character that quests for 1 lore. And he has an ability that says telling lies. When you play this character, you may exert chosen opposing character. The flavor text is, a lie keeps growing and growing until it's plain as the nose on your face. That is deep. This card is like a mini Elsa. You play it, you exert an opposing character. The biggest difference is that it doesn't hit 2 characters. Elsa's an 8 ink character, and Elsa has the extra ability that says on the next turn your opponent can't ready them. Pinocchio being a lot weaker version of that, but also a card that costs way less. You can play this on turn 2 and make your opponent exert a character, and you can challenge the character. So let's say you go first, you play an Archimedes. They go first, they play a Lilo. You go second, you play Pinocchio. You can exert their Lilo, and then you can trade your Archimedes into their Lilo. I think this card you're gonna see in a lot of Ruby Amethyst decks. If Ruby Amethyst is still a deck like the way it's being played right now, this card seems like a warranted card. I love it because right now Ruby Amethyst has a problem with dealing with a lot of early game. And this is an early game card that can easily sway you those first 3 turns. And it's not going to guarantee you the match win or nothing, but if you can out their early game Lilo, or sometimes like I play Stitch new dog on turn 1, knowing that I'm going to try and shift it on turn 4. And if I do that when you have an Archimedes on board, and turn 2 you play Pinocchio to trade your Archimedes into my Stitch, I'm gonna be sad. This is gonna start getting me to question whether or not to play that Stitch on turn 1, depending on the deck, right? When you're going blind though, it's not the best going second, but later on in the game, this is gonna add a lot of application to being able to clear characters that you wouldn't be able to clear before, because a lot of times you can't really play around a card like this, where like you can't read whether or not they're gonna exert your character, right? So if they have an Aladdin on board and you're thinking they have this, you got to get rid of that Aladdin before you play any characters, basically, because if you have any characters on board, readied or not, they're gonna play Pinocchio on you, they're gonna exert it, and then Aladdin's gonna be able to trade into that. This next card is also a promo card, which, by the way, 4 Dozen Eggs, Pinocchio, and Rapunzel were promos, so we're gonna get these pretty easily. But we have a 5 ink Rapunzel, another Amber Rapunzel, guys, and get this, it's another Rapunzel that draws you cards. So it's a 5 ink inkable. It has 0 strength, 6 willpower, and it's a shift 3, so you can play this on top of a Rapunzel character for only 3 ink, right? Which is pretty good. So her ability is Let Your Power Shine. Whenever you remove 1 or more damage from one of your characters, you may draw a card. So it is a weaker version of the current Rapunzel we have now, but it's also a version of Rapunzel that can technically draw you more than 3 cards, depending on how long this survives on the field, or depending on how often you're using a healing ability. So let's say, for example, you play the regular Rapunzel, you heal for 3, and you draw 3. You're only ever drawing 3 cards from that one Rapunzel. But you can shift into this Rapunzel using that Rapunzel. Then you can start using cards like Hakuna Matata. You only draw 1 because you healed your whole board, and it's only 1 draw per as much as you healed. But you can later use cards like Dingle Hopper, Healing Glow. You can combo it off with another Rapunzel, and you'll be able to draw a card every single time you use that. So this being a 6 willpowered character makes it difficult to remove, right? Oftentimes, if you're just going to keep gaining that advantage of drawing a card every time you're healing, this might become a problem very quick. On top of that, it's a 2 lore character, so your opponent's going to be using this to gain 2 lore, and they're going to be using it to try and draw multiple cards throughout multiple turns. You're going to need to out this. It's going to become a problem depending on how your opponent's deck is built. So this card is kind of cool because it does give use case to certain cards like Dingle Hopper and Healing Glow, like I was talking about, the very weak healing Amber cards. But I don't think it's necessarily anything like too crazy. It is a Floodborn princess, so it does have synergy with Floodborn and princess characters, so there might be something there that I'm missing. It seems like a decent card in Amber, and this does mean that you can play this if you can't afford the current Rapunzel, right? Because this is a promo card, we're probably going to get them all very easily or pretty much for free. So let's say you've been missing some draw power in your Amber deck and you don't want to invest in Rapunzels, you might be able to use this Rapunzel instead and combo it off with cards like Hakuna Matata or Healing Glow, right? I don't know, maybe we might be in a Dingle Hopper meta coming soon, because I imagine if you have 2 Dingle Hopper on the field and then you play this Rapunzel, you're going to be able to heal 1, draw, heal 1, draw. Those Dingle Hoppers replace themselves the moment you have this on board. forward. So I was over here thinking Dinglehopper was never going to be good, but now I'm over here thinking I might play Dinglehopper in the future just because of this Rapunzel card. But it is a card that can get you a lot of value, and it does seem like a card that you can use in a tournament setting in replacement for some of the other draw heavy cards that Amber has. So good to see that we're getting some draw power that isn't going to be more than $50-$60. You know what I mean? Let me know if there's any other combos or pairings for cards that you have seen today. In general, I would love to hear your comments and opinions on which cards are going to be meta, which cards are going to be good, and which cards you're looking forward to use in your decks. This has been Lorcana Goons. My name is Kevin. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you are a Lorcana Goon so that we can keep making Lorcana content. Thank you guys, really appreciate it, and we will see you guys next time. You goons have a great rest of your week.